by the word circumference. Gabri? Yes. What does circumference mean? Yeah, it's the distance around a circle. Distance around a circle. It is the same thing as asking for the perimeter of a circle, except we don't ever ask for the perimeter of a circle, ever. We always call it the circumference. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what happened at some time here? Looking for something nice and round. Hold on a second. What happened here was, well, maybe I'll maybe not. Let's just do, I need something that's solid in the circle here. Yes, Sam, that would work. Take a look, see here. At one time, some smart, ingenious person found a round thing. Let's say this round thing here. Might have to enlist Kyle's help here. I don't know if I like this one. He measured around this thing, and Kyle said the round this thing is, we're going to do this in millimeters. How many millimeters is that? 254 is right. The circumference of this little thing here, by the way, here, let me draw you the rest of it. It's got this little glitter thing, it's got a thing like that, and this circle's over here. And there's a circle there, a little thing here. Anyway, the distance around this, Kyle measured with my little tape. The circumference is 254 millimeters. Okay. Now, Alex is going to help me with this because I need to get the diameter. This dude found out that if you take the circumference of a circle, let's see, look at that. Well, we're going millimeters. This little thing has a diameter of 80 millimeters. Okay, now, not to be outdone here, I need something bigger. Not too big.
My head. Mr. Ron, my head. Do my head.
Your head is not a circle. Alright, let's do the Clorox thing. We'll do as best we can.
I'll help you.
I think they're about the size. I think I need something rounder. Let's do one of these.
Go get a ball from the ball. Here's a ball right there.
Let's do a DDD.
A T.
If I can get this around. Annalise, tell me what this is. Annalise is measuring in millimeters, and it looks like this thing is 380 looks good. So here my DVD. Here's my DVD. The distance around my DVD is about circumference equals 380. And the distance through the DVD trace is that's almost very close to 120, she says. Now we could spend all day measuring and doing this, but we don't need to. Some guy did this and decided that if, and I'm going to pull up my calculator because I know you don't want to do the math and I don't feel like doing the math. Where is the calculator here? Anyway, some guy figured out that if you take the circumference of a circle and divide it by the diameter of the circle, 200 and, oh sorry, where's the clear button? Clear, 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 clear all. If you take 254 and divide it by 80, I get 3.175. if I take 300, here we go. If I take 300, calculator maybe. If I take 380 and divide it by 120, I get 3.16 repeater. Anyways, yeah, okay. It has to go to a 7. Anyway, what this guy did was he measured thousands and thousands of circles and divided them by their diameters, and he always ended up with a number that was awful close or very similar to this. And that number that's very similar to this, you'll see it's a very mathematical famous number, is right up there. He found out that if you take the circumference of a circle and divide it by its diameter, you always get, if I could measure it close enough and if my things were perfect circles, you always get this 3.14159 thing over there, or we also call it pi. Okay, no matter what the circle is, if you take a circle, divide it by its diameter, you will always get 3.14, which to you might not make much difference, but the nice thing is if you rearrange these numbers, you can change this formula so that you can find a circle, the circumference of a circle, by just taking 3.14 and multiplying it by its diameter. This is the important thing for you to write down there. Circumference of a circle equals 3.14 times the diameter. And the nice thing about that is, you know, has anybody ever actually measured through the middle of the earth? Could you actually take a tape measure and measure straight through the center of the earth? No, you can't. But since we know the distance around the earth,
What's the difference?
what's the distance around the earth? It's somewhere around 24,000 miles, I think. And if you divide 24,000 by 3.14, which is pi, you will get how far it is through the earth without actually having to take a tape measure and measure through the earth. So through the middle of the earth is like 7,643 miles. And you don't need to take a tape measure and do that. You can just use the formula that we have to do that. But the most important thing for you to understand is that circumference equals pi times diameter. Because they're going to ask you a lot of questions about that. For example, here's a circle. They give us a circle. They tell us its diameter is 2 inches. What is its circumference? How far around that circle is? If you see a problem like this on your assignment, what's the first thing you do, Kendall Howe? No. What's the first? You see a problem like this on your paper, the first thing you do is, Kendall Howe? Draw the circle with its measurements. Then the next thing you would do would be, Gabby, you would write the formula down. Yeah, we already got that. And then you would fill in the blanks that you know. For example, you know that pi is 3.14. By the way, when we use 3.14 for pi, it's only what we call an approximation. It will not be exact. It's close enough for what we're doing, but that is actually pi out there and it never ends. You can never ever get perfectly exact with pi because we don't know exactly what it is at the end. And then you'd have to multiply that by what's its diameter, Grace? 2 inches. So we know that the circumference equals 3.14 times 2, which is 6.28 inches. That's how far around this thing. If you took a tape measure and measured around it, you would get 6.28. And even a more general thing would be just multiply it by 3. If you just multiply by 3, you get awful close. Let's see what else they give us here. Maybe I should pull it up here. Stop it.